And welcome to another edition of Patriots 4th and 2. I am your host today, Derek Havens, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Steve Balestrieri. Unfortunately, Russ Goldman will not be joining us, at least at the beginning of the show. Maybe we can squeak him in at the end, but he is on a different journey right now. So I am just welcoming you all to the show today. We have a very, very interesting week ahead of us. First and foremost, happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners. Hope you all have a fun time with friends, family, wherever you are around the world. I know I certainly have a lot to be thankful for, like my two friends, Steve and Russ. And Steve, another Patriots victory. It was a barn burner of a game. Patriots win over the Jets in New England, 10-3 on one of the more exciting finishes to a regular season game, certainly, at least in recent memory. I mean, I don't want to go all the way back. I know you're much older than me, Steve, as I love to remind you. But in the last, 20 years or so, I mean, that was an exciting finish. Marcus Jones with the walk-off, punt return, 84 yards. He was named the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week, easiest decision they've ever made. Steve, first and foremost, let's start with the last play before we get into the rest of the game, or one of the last plays of the game. It's so fun when you and I talk about the pre-draft process and we get excited about a player. The team takes a player, and then you see that player contribute to your team. And we've been doing this show a long time. We talked about Marcus Jones a lot in the pre-draft process. He was a two-time All-American. He had nine kick and punt returns for touchdowns in college. This is what he does. He truly has a special gift for it. And I'm not sure what the Jets were thinking. We can get to that bridge in just a second. But what a play by Marcus Jones. And you could see the elation on the Patriots sideline. What a big play.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't remember a kickoff or a punt return at the end of the game like that in a Patriots game. I mean, I have to go all the way back to Joe Washington running it back against the Patriots. I was racking my brain trying to think of one. And that was a very, very long time ago. But what a great play. And you and I have been talking offline about this kid all season.
Yep.
And we both said it wasn't a matter of if he's going to break one and bring it back to the house. It was just a question of when, because it seems like every week he's really close to doing it. And this week, at the absolute perfect time, he broke it. Once he made that first guy miss and he started breaking to the outside, you could see that extra gear coming in. And once he reached the sideline, I was like, this is going to go for a while. This is not going to be a 15 or 20-yard return. This is going for a ways. And I was thinking he might, take it to the house. And then you could hear the crowd noise gradually getting louder and louder.
with each cut. It's funny because on the CBS broadcast, I'm actually at I'm in a cabin up north for my brother's birthday, and I'm watching the game on my cell phone. I couldn't get it to stream to any of the TVs. I couldn't get any TV picture at all. The Wi-Fi was barely working. My service was minimal at best. I missed the first 3 minutes of the game until I got back, and I rewatched it as I always do. And as soon as he caught the punt, Steve, there was nobody within the CBS screenshot. And I thought he was going to do what he previously did on the two punts prior, which was punted out of bounds. And I don't know if he was accounting for the wind or what, but he just line drives this thing right to him. And you could tell right away, you're like, oh, he's got a little room here. And then some excellent blocks, by a bunch of different people, Mac Wilson excluded. We can get to that shortly. But, the look, I mean, for one, the crowd just erupted, and it was bitter cold from what I was told by someone in the stand. And I know how that wind chill, I think with the wind chill, it was in the 20s, and we know how that goes there, especially up in the 300s. But man, the look on Robert Saleh's face after Marcus Jones scored was just a look of just disgust, and just looked like his stomach was doing absolute somersaults. It was a gross. If you're a Jets fan, that's a gross way to end the game, especially because you kept it close despite your offense doing nothing, which we can talk about briefly. And it's just, man, Steve, I mean, look, the Patriots offense moved the ball throughout the day at times, but it's like a negative play or a sack or something, and the drive stalls, especially when the closer you get to the red zone, the worse his offense is. Okay. And, the Jets were equally as bad. They were terrible. They averaged 2.77 inches per play in the second half on offense. I've never seen a stat like that. I think they had like 44 passing yards or something like that.
Yeah, 44
Zach
net passing yards.
Zach Wilson really causing some serious controversy in the locker room with his post-game thoughts. I'm just wondering if the Jets are going to totally blow up after this loss. If this is the kind of loss that will send them down the other way. Garrett Wilson's panicking in the locker room saying he can't do this anymore. I'm like, dude, you're a rookie. You've been there for like 5 minutes. It's buckle up. You got a few more years left. So, but for me, Steve, let's go back to the Patriots offense. I thought that, Damian Harris gave them a spark. They got the tight ends more involved. I thought you saw a little more creativity with they had the multiple formations of, both Harris and Stevenson in the backfield. They did a little bit with a running back and both tight ends. They were clearly trying to, mix it up. You got to give the Jets a ton of credit. Defensively, that front seven is no joke. I mean, if you're a fan of front seven football, you loved this game because both front sevens were tremendous.
That was me. I was not bored. Everyone kept saying how bored it was, and I love front seven football. So,
I wasn't bored until the third possession of the second half.
Yeah, because I was enjoying it. I love watching defenses, and we all want to see them score 40 points every game, but. I'm just a fan of defense, so I wasn't bored at all. I was excited, actually.
I wasn't bored until the third possession of the second half, and it wasn't. And I trust me, we talked about this off the air. Not every game has to be 37-34. I'm okay with a lower scoring game. It's nice to see. It's refreshing, but the offenses were so bad. I mean, both of them are just total train wrecks, and for similar reasons. I mean, both offensive lines were really bad. Both quarterbacks. I didn't think Mac Jones was terrible in the game. I actually thought he was fine. He did take too many sacks. He has to learn to get rid of the ball on a couple of times. But I thought he had some. I thought he was okay in this game. It was for how bad the offensive line is. And when the pressure the Jets were able to get, I thought it could have been a lot worse. So I thought I saw a little bit of improvement there. That's something I'm going to keep my eye on, as the next week or two move forward, because I don't know what they changed on offense. It looks like they made some changes. It's really hard to tell against a very good Jets defense, but if the offense looks a little more competent, then maybe we have a little bit of hope. But I'm really worried about the offensive line, Steve. I mean, it goes back to that. They're moving guys all around. David Andrews lost for probably, if not the season, it seems like at least a few weeks with an upper thigh injury. Who knows what's going on at right tackle? It's a really, really big concern right now. It's my biggest concern on the team.
Yeah, and getting back to Mac Jones and the sacks, I read a really interesting article yesterday from Mark Daniels of Mass Live. He's no longer with the Providence Journal, but Mark's a really good guy. He's on top of things. And to answer Chris's first question, Derek and I are going alone today. Russ had to go out and take care of some last minute stuff for Thanksgiving. So, Mark Daniels wrote that the average time that Jones was getting sacked was 2.8 seconds, which is really fast. In fact, the first sack of the game, and on the first play of the game for the Patriots, he was sacked in 2.1 seconds, which, when you're taking a 7-step drop, your back heel hits the ground and you're getting tackled. So the longest he held the ball was 3.1 when he was sacked. That's not very long. And that if you after he wrote that, I went on the All 22, and on several of the sacks, he was getting hit before his receivers are even making a break. And you and I talked about that. The offense just seems very clunky. It doesn't seem in sync right now, but it all comes from that offensive line. Everything stems from there. It affects your running game. It affects your passing game. It affects the routes your wide receivers can run. It factors into everything. And right now, it's a train wreck. I mean, it wasn't just the right tackle. I mean, Yadni Kajus gave up 2 sacks. Trent Brown gave up 2 sacks. That's 4 sacks from your perimeter guys. And then they tack in the penalties and the pressures and the quarterback hits, and then no one getting a push up front. It's just not good. And, they're playing a Minnesota team. We'll get to them in a bit, but, they're going to have to be a lot better because that Minnesota offense isn't the Jets offense.
And that's the issue that we're going to face, I think, down the stretch here. The Patriots, I think, this season has gone very similar to how I thought it was going to go, honestly. Maybe mix and match 1 or 2 games. That Bears loss still is a killer. That really hurts still as you kind of down the stretch. But look, the Patriots defense is playing well. I want to give them a ton of credit. I know if Russ was here, he would be mad if I was marginalizing who their opponents are. But let's be honest, everybody. They've played some weaker offenses, and they're going to have the Dolphins, the Bills twice, the Bengals. They got some challenges ahead. Even this Vikings team, you have an elite running back, an elite receiver, some nice complementary weapons, and a quarterback who's kind of a Jekyll or Hyde guy. In primetime, he's 10 and 15. So primetime Kirk, you do get him in a spot you want him, but at the same time, you have some big challenges that you have to figure out how to slow down. And if you're the Patriots, you can't go and score, 10, 17 points against, these teams coming up. You got to get into the mid to high 20s, and they need to figure it out. And you can't bank on defenses and special teams touchdowns to get there. So the Patriots offense needs to do a better job of stopping the negative plays because they are not good enough to overcome them right now. And they need to do a better job of executing in the red zone. If the offense can improve down the stretch, obviously the defense, I think it will still be good because I'm confident in what I've watched them do, Steve. But I don't know if it'll be as good down the stretch just because they're facing better competition. But if the offense can start scoring a little more, I think they can make a little bit of a run. We'll see. I still think they're probably going to end up around 9-8, kind of how I had it at the beginning of the year. But I think if you can steal this one, Steve, if you can steal this one on the road, short week, I think you have a good chance at 10 wins. What do you think?
Absolutely. And, the bottom line, I mean, you can't expect the defense to hold everyone to 3 points every week. I mean, I don't care if you're the 85 Bears defense. I mean, it's unrealistic.
Yeah.
And granted, they have been playing weaker offenses, but you play the guys on your schedule and they're performing right now. Are they going to hold the Vikings to 3 points? I tend to doubt it, but I have no problem with the way the defense is playing. They're going to have a really rough game this week because, as you said, they have a tremendous running back. They have really good receivers, and not just Jefferson, and a quarterback that when he's on, Kirk Cousins, when he's on top of his game, he's as good as anybody. He does have those stinkeroos of games that pops up. And I think the whole team had a stinkeroo last week against Dallas. So we don't know who's going to show up. Is the Vikings still reeling from that loss? Let's hope so, But getting back to this Jets game, the offense, and again, they had moved the ball. They had 300 yards of offense. And you think about all the negative plays on defense and the sacks. If you take away those, then they're right around 400 yards. But they're not being able to finish drives. And that comes from the sacks, the penalties, the negative plays on first down, especially, and then put you behind the sticks. And I, honestly, with this offensive line, I don't know how they fix it at this point, because
I don't think you can.
they picked up Connor McDermott from the Jets practice squad, who the Patriots drafted a few years ago. But I don't know. I mean, nobody's getting it done on the perimeter, and that's alarming. Now, I will say this: David Andrews, Zoe was on the air on Monday, and he said that Andrews might even play on Thursday night.
Yeah, some interesting. So here's the thing. So I heard the same thing as you and I spoke off the air about it. Zoe doesn't just throw things against the wall. He's very informed. He has and that to me is an informed, opinion or an informed take. Now I'm sure he doesn't have everything, but he probably knows that it's a serious injury. But David Andrews is a tough SOB, and he's hearing that it's probably going to be shorter. We never really got specifics on the Andrews injury, which I find extremely odd. A lot of national guys, Ian Rappaport, Mike Giardi, Adam Schefter, have a lot of ties to the New England, front office. And I thought that when Ian Rappaport came out and said that it was, he has a chance to come back late in the season, maybe for the playoffs, but nothing's really guaranteed. I thought even that was not as specific of a report as we're accustomed to. Per se. So the Andrews thing is interesting, but James Ferentz sucks, Steve. I mean, just he is horrible. I can't watch anymore. Give me Cody Russi. Give me Chasen Hines. Like somebody. I mean, it needs. He is tough, and Cole Strange is really struggling. But where he at the beginning of the year when he was in a good situation with a motivated Trent Brown and a bought-in Trent Brown and on his one side and healthy David Andrews on his right side. Well, he was in a good spot. Now you have, unfortunately, Andrews has kind of gone through it this year from an injury standpoint. And Trent Brown, I think, was benched last week, for something disciplinary. I had heard a rumor that he was late to come back and check in with the team from the bye week. Who knows? We'll see it going forward. But rookie.
And I also read he had an illness.
Yeah, so we don't know. I thank you. I don't know. Like I said, it was just a rumor. We don't know. Could have been disciplined. Could have been sick. I don't know what it is. Anyway, so something to keep an eye on. I don't think you can fix it mid-season, Steve. I honestly, I'm hoping that Bill is. I know he's usually reluctant to bring in outside people, but I really think he needs to bring in a dedicated offensive line coach. Or if it's Billy Yates. And they elevate him, that's fine. But I really would feel better about either bringing in some kind of a veteran offensive line coach. They need to do something with this offensive coaching staff. I just think they're too thin on that side. And I think it just reflects, I don't want to excuse the play. I mean, I know the two kind of bleed together like a, Venn diagram per se. There's not great execution on the offense right now. But I do think that the coaching is in almost all areas is really been affected. And the running back room is good, so you don't really see it there as much. And I can't speak to certain running back, responsibilities because we just not privy to that. But, from an off, I mean, I don't know. We don't know the offensive line stuff too, but I know that they shouldn't be allowing 6 sacks. I don't care who you're playing. Okay. And as
2 games against the Jets, they've allowed 12.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it was 9 against everybody else from what which seems low. And, John points out, in a great comment. And, the Jets defense was number 1 last week. Terrific unit. They did kill themselves with penalties. That's a dumb football team. But I'll say this, they're also a young football team. They have a very, very young team. So you're going to ride your highs and lows with the young team. So, John, I agree with you. Cute dog on your profile picture, by the way. I'm a big golden guy. Where do we want to go from here, Steve? I mean, we could talk about a lot of things. Rush usually keeps me on the rails. I haven't hosted in a couple months, so I wasn't prepared for this.
You haven't hosted since we were still talking draft stuff, right?
I know. I was looking back at a couple of mock drafts that I did actually after the Marcus Jones return because I was so damn proud of myself. Like, I really hit the nail on the effing head with this one. And I was looking back at some of the mock drafts, and I had a couple of them. We talked about it, but there was a couple of guys, and we both were all over it. Anyway,
going
patting
to
myself on the back.
Going to the defense, I was watching the film, and again, I saw something that they started doing against the Jets, and I think it was just to get them ready for other quarterbacks that are coming. They, on obvious passing downs, they were putting Mac Wilson in and leaving him as a spy in the middle. And then if, they started chasing Zach Wilson, there's so many Wilsons and Joneses, and I mean,
we're losing track.
Everything. But anyway, when they started chasing him and getting him to move sideways in the pocket, then Wilson would join in from the interior linebacker position. But I think that's a really good idea, especially, they have, Kyler Murray, 2 games against Josh Allen. They'll face Tua again. I think that's a really good idea and gets them in that mode. Okay, we're going to be doing this more and more as the season goes on. Let's start doing it now.
Yeah, and I thought John Jones was all over the place. I thought Kyle Duggar was excellent in this game. Dietrich Wise was excellent in this game. They had Mac Wilson had 1 or 2 negative plays, I thought, especially the one that he almost got called for, block on the back. I'm glad the refs swallowed that because I think Jones was already gone. I'm hoping that was the case, but they saved us from overtime, which I'm not sure anybody wanted at that point. Can we just take I'm not making fun of Russ because I love Russ, but I can just tell. I think we were robbed, Steve. Look at this. Okay, so people who are only listening, you can't see the captions, but maybe the Patriots defense made Zach Wilson play so poorly. We got Mac Jones or Sack Jones, and does the scoreboard matter anymore? So he had rants ready to go, unleashed on the Boston media, and we were robbed. We were robbed of this experience.
Yeah, because I know you and Russ would have really gone at it with the some of the topics there, and I know Russ. He had told me earlier this morning. We were talking offline, and he told me he was going to put in. Does the scoreboard matter anymore? Because apparently a lot of the media people that Russ can't stand but listens to every week, which I never understood for 11 years now, Derek. I haven't got it.
It's the largest demographic in Boston radio. People who say they hate it, but they can't turn the dial off.
Yeah, I've never understood that because he can't stand them, but he still listens to them. Apparently, they were saying the scoreboard doesn't matter. They didn't play good enough to win. So,
well, I don't think either team really played well enough to win the game for a large majority of it. I mean, at the end of the day, the Patriots executed and the Jets didn't. It goes back to the final play, and it just shows you, Steve, how it really is a 60-minute ball game. I do get that. I mean, we can get into the Russ's Boston radio obsession on it. We'll dive back into it, make it an off-season show. We got plenty of time.
But getting back to the original one you put up, was the Patriots defense responsible for Zach Wilson playing so poorly? I think, a large part of that, yes.
Sure.
Because, they had him under a ton of pressure too. That Jets offensive line is also a mess. And, they were running through the same problems that the Patriots were. The difference was, that in spite of that, Mac Jones threw for 246 yards and Zach Wilson threw for 77. Now, Wilson tried to say after the game that it was the wind that was affecting his throwing. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought when he came out, everyone was talking about how strong his arm was. And we don't hear people saying that about Mac. So how can Zach Wilson have a stronger arm and he only throws for 77 because it's the wind affecting him on the same field? Mac Jones is throwing for 246.
You think Zach Wilson's done in New York, Steve?
I think for the time being he is. I don't think it's a permanent thing, but a lot of it's going to depend. I think a lot of it's going to depend on his attitude, because I think he played really poorly. Because say what you will about the pressure on him, which he was under a lot. He was sacked 4 times. But, they had some throws out where they had a wide receiver screen or a running back screen, and he just sailed the ball over his guys' heads.
Oh, by like 3 feet.
Yeah.
It was
maybe even more on that one toward the Patriots sideline. I mean, he had the guy like inside the hash marks, and the ball landed on the Patriots bench.
And look, I'm not comparing these two players, Steve. I'm not comparing Zach Wilson and Josh Allen, but it took Josh Allen like 3 years or so before you started to see it kind of click, which is a little bit to be expected. But for a while, there were a lot of throws that he just airmailed.
Oh, yeah.
And you saw that a lot with Zach Wilson too. And sometimes it takes these guys a little bit longer. But the difference is Josh Allen has a very good makeup, and we don't know what's between the years in the pre-draft process and in the facilities and all that. Zach Wilson's comportment and lack of accountability and just how he carries himself in general, I just think it rubs people the wrong way. There was a lot of talk in the pre-draft process about the red flag it was that he was not a captain in college, and I think to have him stand up at post game and say that he didn't let the defense down was a joke. I mean, if you lose, it's I and me. If, we win, it's, them and we, and he doesn't have that like at all. And I mean, it's really, I don't know what they're going to do. I think they probably will keep playing him, but I think if he plays badly in this game, he's on the short leash, because I think Saleh, he feels the pressure in the locker room, and they can't stroll out 44 passing yards and expect to win many games. I mean, that was a huge loss for the Jets. I mean, their season's not done, just like the Patriots season is it over, and they're stamped into the playoffs. But that game had huge ramifications for both teams. And to put up an offensive performance like that, clearly have the Patriots right where they kind of want them, because both teams are struggling. I mean, the Patriots, where I had it somewhere here, the Patriots had 8 possessions and 8 possessions which they lasted 5 plays or less, and they had 5 possessions where they went 3 and out. I mean, the Jets were dominating on defense. The Patriots couldn't move the ball for stretches. Some stretches they did, but they couldn't punch it in. And missed field goals and weird wind, and the Jets 3-3, with only a couple seconds left in the fourth quarter, and they made a mistake and lost the game. But so the defense did their job, special teams did their job, the offense did not. And for Zach Wilson to have that lack of accountability afterwards, I think he's treading a very, very dangerous line with that locker room.
Oh, yeah, because, the bottom line is it's not just saying the right things, it's doing the right things. And, when you show that type of arrogance, you have to wonder how well he takes to coaching. I mean, we're not in the Jets locker room or on their practice field, but those are the things that, resonate, especially with your head coach. How many times did, we see Tom Brady after a bad game say, hey, I have to do better. I have to, make sure the guys are in a position to succeed. He always took accountability, and he had plenty of, juice to if he wanted to take another tack on that, but he never did. And when the Patriots won, it was all the guys played great. And what do you always hear Brady say after a win? It's all about team.
Yep.
And this guy, he's just tone deaf. I mean, he said no twice. And then, later on in his post-game press conference, one of the other Jets beat writers, I don't remember who it was, asked him, he's like, a couple of your wide receivers seem, pretty frustrated. And the correct answer would have been, hey, we were all frustrated. We all want to do better. I have to do a better job of getting them the football, blah, blah, blah. And what is the answer? Well, I'm pretty frustrated with them. I mean, that's not the answer. And other guys in the locker room are hearing this. So I really think he lost that locker room right now. I think the best thing for Robert Saleh to do is to sit him down and start making him accountable, and not just throw him right back out there saying, oh, yeah, you're the guy. So
Well, I would have loved to be a fly on that wall because apparently he met with, I guess upper management, however you want to term it, on, was it Monday? I think it was Monday. He was 2 hours late for his scheduled media availability. And, so for me, I look at it and I'm just like, I'm curious if ownership is like, look, you have to write it out, and he wants to make a change, and they're like, we drafted him, number 2 overall. We can't go back, or if it's reverse, he wants to keep him, and they're like, you can't. I would bet the ownership would be forcing him to keep the younger guy, and he wants to make the change. And you know what? The funny thing about that is, if they lose, if he does that, he can lose the locker room, and then he'll lose his job, because then, because they'll lose, and then ownership will turn around, and he'll be like, well, I told you I wanted to go with Mike White or Joe Flacco or whoever else. But I mean, I think I don't know. I think I would just have said, like you said, I would have sat Zach Wilson down and said, hey man, like, you're on a short leash. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to say. If things aren't working, we're going to have to make the change and just go from there. All right, let's go ahead and step aside here for a quick second, take a break. When we get back, we're going to have a quick conversation about the current AFC playoff standings, and then preview the upcoming game against Minnesota Vikings. And we're back here on Patriots 4th and 2. Again, Derek Havens here hosting in place of Russ Goldman today. Along with me is Mr. Steve Balestrieri. Steve, let's talk about playoffs. We can talk about the playoffs today, okay? Right now, the Patriots are the number 6 seed in the AFC. There's 7 teams in each conference, assuming everybody knows that. But the Chiefs are 1, Dolphins are 2, Titans are 3, Ravens are 4, Bills are 5, Patriots 6, Bengals 7. Patriots have a few opponents left on the schedule who are all playoff teams. What's the percent? Give me a quick conversation. What's the percentage you think the Patriots make the playoffs right now? And are you surprised they're in this position, or are you kind of expected it?
That's a good question. Percentage. Right now, I'm looking at the rest of the schedule, and it's tough. So I'm not gonna say 50-50, but I'm gonna go a little less than that. I'm gonna say 40% chance they make the playoffs because of the way this offense is playing. Actually, at this point, I thought they would be better. I predicted they were going to win 11 games this year, and I thought they would be about 7-3 at this point.
Okay. Yeah, no, and honestly, you probably should be right. They shouldn't have lost that Bears game, unfortunately. The other games you can kind of chalk back and forth, but they'd be better off if they were in that position, that's for sure. But
Chris gives them a 30% chance.
I give them about a 25% chance right now, and I think a lot hinges on this game. Here's my biggest thing. I'm extremely encouraged about the defense. I think the defense is outplaying my expectations for what I had them this year. They've had some emergence of players, and Russ and I got into an argument about this at the beginning of the year, but it kind of happened the way I said it was going to happen. If the defense is going to play well, players need to emerge that we weren't expecting. Jelani Tavai has played pretty well for the balance of the season. I wasn't expecting that. Wasn't expecting Dietrich Wise to come out of nowhere and take a different step, where he's at. And some of the younger players it's been encouraging to see. I still have some trepidation versus these offenses coming up, and I'm still looking at the offense for the Patriots, and I'm wondering how they're going to score against some of these teams that are going to put up points. And so that to me is where my biggest reservations are, and I'm hoping the season doesn't go down the way it went down last year, Steve, where little rocky start, really solid middle, and then they peter down the stretch, because the last few years they've done that. Last year was very similar, 2-4, 6-0, 2-4, so that's how the season went for the 18 games they played last year, including the playoff game. So I want to see how they finish. I think how they finish this season, and Mac Jones especially, I'm really hoping we see a little bit more for him down the stretch, because it's been tough to evaluate him, as we've discussed all season long. He hasn't been healthy all year. You have some big tests here. I'd like to see him end his season. However the Patriots season ends, I'm hoping it ends with us feeling better about Mac Jones than we do right now. Because I think Russ said on Twitter on Sunday he was ready to move on from Mac Jones. He stamped him the franchise quarterback last year, but things have changed, I guess. I don't know. I still think you're probably settled into another year of Mac Jones next year, and you make your evaluation after that. But what do you think about that, Steve?
Yeah, because again, with the play of the offensive line, it's really tough for your quarterback to make a year two jump. I mean, it just Russ and Derek argues. No, that never happens.
Never happens.
That's good. It's just like every week when I do the positional report card, you're looking at your skill position guys, the quarterback, the running backs, the tight ends, and the wide receivers. And it's really hard to give them a legitimate grade when the offensive line is playing so poorly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, I don't think Jones is going anywhere. His confidence doesn't seem to be gone. I thought he played well on Sunday, given what was going on around him. Was the results there? No. They only scored 3 points. But, 23 of 27, that's 85%, 246 yards. He was averaging 9.1 yards per attempt, and his passer rating was 104.6. There's nothing wrong with that. I think, what we talked about, poor play along the offensive line, the negative plays, the sacks, the penalties, those are drive killers. And this is an offense that has to play ahead of the sticks. So when you're constantly putting your offense 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13, they're not built to come back from that.
Yeah, Tom Brady when he was here, good offenses now like Mahomes or Allen, you can take a 5-yard, false start or a 10-yard holding penalty and still make something happen. This team can't do it. One of the most miraculous plays it only happened once, but one of the more miraculous plays of this last game was the Ramondre Stevenson 3rd and 16 pickup. And that was to me horrible defense by the Jets. It was terrible tackling, but
that was all him.
Yeah, but Stevenson was there to make the play, and I give him a lot of credit for that. But Steve, as we turn the page here, we are on to Minnesota, and this is an interesting spot for the Patriots. This is what we call old man hell. And what I mean by that is this enters the first of 4 primetime games in a row, which I know you and Russ are just going to love. Thursday night, what is it? Monday night and then Sunday night, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's I don't know what the NFL was trying to accomplish putting the Patriots into primetime so many weeks in a row, but hopefully they perform better than they did in that Bears game, because we need to change the national perspective on this team right now, because and now they're going up against a Vikings team that is playing well, aside from last week where they got absolutely stomped by the Dallas Cowboys, but they've been playing good football, Steve. They've been playing better. They've been playing pretty good defense. They've run the ball well. Kirk Cousins has been playing pretty well. There are some questions. There are some flaws with this team, Steve. But they do have the talent. Give me your initial thoughts, opening thoughts on the Vikings.
Yeah, we talked about the Vikings offense a few minutes ago, and but when you look at the numbers over 10 games, the Patriots are kind of almost right there with them, which is amazing to me. When I looked at the numbers, because I was expecting Minnesota to be way ahead of them. Per game, the Vikings are only averaging like 20 yards more than the Patriots per game. And when I saw that, I was kind of shocked. And it starts with the running game. The Patriots running game has been trending downward because of the offensive line play, but they're still averaging like 12 more yards per game on the ground in Minnesota. And I was like, that has to be a typo,
Yep.
Defensively, their secondary is kind of held together by turnovers. When I say that those guys intercept a lot of passes, and that's something we're going to have to look at. But the Vikings are 31st in pass defense, and they can be passed upon. Now I say that with a grain of salt because, the Patriots don't seem like they can pass against anyone right now with that, you know, with that offensive line. And they have two guys that can get after it on the edge, which, as we all know, that's where the weakness is. Darius Smith. I mean, he has, I think it's 9.5 sacks right now. But I think you can pass on Minnesota if you get any semblance of protection. You're just going to have to be careful because they are ball hawks. And I think you can run against them a little bit.
No, absolutely. And I do think you can move the ball. The biggest thing for me for this Patriots game is you can't give them the extra possessions. I think just if you can just move the ball down the field and finish in the red zone, you're going to be in just such better shape versus, if Mac Jones, it's already going to be a tough hill to climb, Steve. But if Mac Jones throws a pick or two, or the drive stalls out, there's a turnover on downs, you give them those extra possessions, and I think if you keep it tight, you're going to be in a one possession striking distance at the end of this game, if not having the lead. And I think if you have a turnover or two, I just think that that's when they'll probably start to pull away. The thing about the Vikings is that they haven't really blown out anybody. They really they've done it. I give them credit because this is it's happened for half the season. Okay, so maybe the bottom will fall out for them or not, but to their credit, they have found a way to win games late, which good teams do. Okay, and maybe that was a fluke, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because they've done it for half the season. So, if they play tight and they turn the ball over, I'm saying they as in New England. I just think that they're going to be behind the 8 ball a little bit because Minnesota has found a way to beat those teams all year. But I thought the Patriots did a good job not turning the ball over against a good defense this year. I thought Mac Jones had some pretty good decision-making outside of probably needing to learn to throw the ball away on a couple of those sacks, which we already discussed. And I'm curious to see what the game plan is for the Patriots. If you're the Patriots on defense, Steve, and you're Bill Belichick, what's your first priority? Is it Dalvin Cook or Justin Jefferson? And how do you defend that player?
I think they have to double them up. I think they have to have somebody underneath.
On Justin Jefferson, you mean?
Yeah, and have safety help over the top with Jefferson. And I think the way they've been playing their run defense, I mean, I think they continue with that. I mean, they've been doing a really good job. We'll see how it all plays out. But I think they have to be really sure tackling this week. I mean, I think that should be the priority because you've seen how many times when Cook breaks a tackle, all of a sudden he's gone. So they have to stop that from happening. But I think you continue the way you have been playing, and that's stop the run, make them obvious, pass situations, and kind of bracket Jefferson and make them beat you somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think you need to start with Justin Jefferson. You can't let him dictate the game. He's too good. He's too dangerous. He's put up incredible numbers his early years in the league, off to a tremendous start. I probably go Jonathan Jones, and then like you said, you probably have Devin McCourty really kind of float to his side. But to me, if I'm the Patriots, I'm saying we're going to double Justin on almost every play. We need to make sure we tackle, like you said, keep Dalvin contained. And if TJ Hawkinson or Adam Thielen beat me, then so be it. But I'm not going. If I'm the Patriots, I am not leaving that game saying, "Damn it, how do we let Justin Jefferson wide open like that?" That would be the worst case scenario. If TJ Hawkinson goes off and beats the safety, beats the linebacker in coverage, that would suck. But I would rather have that happen than the first two guys I mentioned. So, to me, I just find that really interesting. Let's get into our 3 keys to the game, Steve, and I'll start with you. Give me your 3 keys on how the Patriots can come away from Minnesota with a win on Thanksgiving night.
Yeah, I think number 1 is you have to find a way to stop shooting yourself in the foot with these negative plays and penalties and the sacks. I mean, I think you can be able to pass against this team. And as strange as that may sound, I think it's time for the tight ends to get involved more in the passing game.
We saw it this last
you
week.
Yeah, you mentioned early in the show that they had a pretty good game. They had 5 catches for 60 something yards. I don't remember I think it's 60 even. And it was on 5 targets. So that was there all game long. I think they need to start dialing that up more. And I think you can run against Minnesota. But the whole thing with this is the negative plays and shooting yourself in the foot has to stop. I think that's number one. Number two is I think they have to get the passing game going. And if you have to use the back out of the backfield, so be it. I mean, I really think they have to get the tight ends involved. I've already mentioned that once. I think this is a week to get them involved and start, hitting on the seams. So to get those linebackers moving backwards, I think it'll help your running game. And number 3 is you can't give up big plays. You can't. And, that's the thing that Minnesota relies on. I think that there's, in all of their games, it seems like they fall behind early. Then they start hitting big plays and they come back. And, that's why their games are all so close. You have to stop them from getting big plays. You have to make them, run a Patriots style offense all the way down the field, a nibble at a time.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. For me, I would say the first key for me is just turnovers. I just think that you can't. They can't overcome those extra possessions right now, and I just think that if you cannot turn the ball over, you're going to help yourself, because putting yourself in a hole and giving the team more time is going to kill you. I mean, the Patriots controlled the clock this last week versus the Jets. Their time of possession was, very strong. I think it was close to 35 minutes around that. And they held the ball. And the easiest way to prevent the other team from scoring, Steve, is to hold on to the football. I mean, some of these things sound so simple, but it is tough to do. I think they really need to. I'd like to see them. You said get the tight ends more involved. I want to see them attack the middle and attack the sides. And what I mean by that is I want to see I want to see the Patriots try to get some players in space, have them get some yak ability. I thought you saw that a little bit more this last week, especially with someone like Jonnu Smith. Now, sometimes the ball just flat fell out of his hands, which is a whole different conversation. But but I think that just getting the ball into some playmaker space, quick passes, Steve, not letting that offensive line become an issue. I know they want to be this slow developing, deep over route passing team, dangerous stretch the field. They can't do it because they can't block up front. Okay. And flat out, that's just how it's going to be. So what do you got to do? You got to get back to what was working, run the ball, play action under center, quick hits, get the Devontae Parker 5-7 yard slant, same with KB. Hit Hunter Henry, get him involved, get Jonnu involved, use the backs. And look, I think it stretches that's worked. And the third thing is for me, Steve, they have to finish in the red zone this week. You got to. I got to. You can't. You have entered the season now, folks, where I don't want to hear Nick Folk kick 4 field goals in a game. Yeah. 1 or 2, that's fine. His 2 misses this last week, I'll chalk up as the wind anomaly. I can't say that word apparently.
Anomaly.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I will chalk that up to the wind. I don't want to see Nick Folk more than 2 field goal attempts the rest of the season. Okay. You need to score touchdowns down the stretch. It starts this week. They need to figure out a way to finish in the red zone. Steve, final thoughts on the game this week, and give me your score prediction.
I think it's going to be a really interesting game. It probably is good for Minnesota to be playing so quickly after, they just got absolutely curb stomped by the Cowboys. I did not expect to see that. Although I picked the Cowboys to win, I thought it was going to be another one of those close games. So, in that aspect, I think it's probably good for Minnesota to get right back out on the field to get that taste out of their mouth. But, with the Patriots, as strange as it may sound, they seem to be playing with a lot of confidence.
They do.
It seemed like the team is really coming together and they're playing with confidence. And I like that, even though the results aren't showing in the scoreboard so much. But, originally, and I was on a podcast last night down here in South Florida. I said Minnesota might win a close game, but I'm going to flip-flop that. I think the Patriots are going to win a close game. I just have that feeling they're going to pull this one out of their back end somehow and score enough points to win. Maybe 16-13.
Bless you.
So there's 3 field goals from Nick Foles.
What was the score?
Sorry about that. I mean, yeah.
What was the score again? I was too busy trying to mute my mic and sneeze at the same time. Failed epically.
16-13.
16-13. Okay. Not the score I was hoping to see. From a Patriots perspective, yes, but I was hoping in the 20s. I have a weird feeling about this game, Steve. I don't know if this is one of those things where the Patriots have won last like 5 of the last 6, and I'm just buying. I'm just sipping the Kool-Aid and got my rose-colored glasses on, or what. But I think I'm fascinated to know the answer to this question, and we are obviously going to find out this week. Does the Vikings bad loss to Dallas, does that piss them off and they rally, or does that tank them on a short week? You got Kevin O'Connell, a first-year head coach, finally facing adversity for the first time in his young career halfway through the season. How does he handle the situation? How does the team handle the situation? Kirk Cousins did not look good this week. He does not usually look good in primetime. Again, he's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde guy. How the Vikings respond, to me, I think will be fascinating. I know the Patriots are going to respond let me rephrase that. I know the Patriots are going to be ready on a short week because I know how Bill prepares them. Whether they execute or not is a different conversation. But I am really curious to see how that whole aspect comes down. I think the Patriots will be ready. I'm sure Justin Jefferson will make some plays, but I don't think he'll kill them. And I have a feeling the Vikings are going to be making mistakes in some critical spots. My only question is going to be if the Patriots are playing well enough for the Vikings' mistakes to matter, if that makes sense. For some reason, I have little doubt the Vikings are going to make a couple of mistakes in some key spots. My question is, if the Patriots have only kicked 3 field goals and it's 17-9 or 20-11 or something like that, well, then it probably won't matter as much. But if the Patriots are scoring some touchdowns, they haven't scored a touchdown in the first quarter of the entire season. I mean, they have to score. It comes down to points. Am I wrong on that, by the way? I don't think I am, but I'm pretty sure they have not.
I was just going to look that up because that's.
I said it with such confidence, so but I'm pretty sure. I have to go back and look at my notes, but I don't think they've scored a touchdown in the first quarter all season. If I'm wrong, someone please, I will mea culpa on the next show, but I am pretty sure they have not. And I don't know, Steve. It just comes at the end of the day, the scoreboard does matter. Okay, I'll fight for you, Russ. The scoreboard does matter, and they have to figure out a way to win these games. And the only way they're going to do that is, okay. Well, Chris says he doesn't think I'm wrong. So if Chris says that, it's good enough for me. I'm just going to take that and run.
I also like Chris's idea of playing 6 men on the offensive line, bringing in the extra tackle.
Yep.
On one of the edges, probably the ones that Darius Smith is on.
Yeah,
dangerous. And hey, if you have to do that, you have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to lose a guy out, then so be it. But right now, you can't. If I'm Bill, I'm just tired of seeing the offensive line just get beat like a drum constantly, and you got to figure it out somehow, some way. My score prediction, Steve, I'm going with 20-17 Patriots. I think it's going to be really. I don't think it's going to be, a crazy barn burner. I don't think it's going to be, a slow game. I think it'll have some ebbs and flows. I'm not sure if it's going to be entirely that high scoring, but I'm fascinated to see it play out. Last, to end the show, Steve, your thoughts on having your team play on Thanksgiving night. Do you like that? If you have to have your team play on Thanksgiving, would you rather be the first game, the middle game, or the last game?
First game.
Really?
Yeah. I'd
Wow,
rather
we're going to
see them.
disagree for the
The first
Thanksgiving
game,
slots.
because during the second game is when our family usually eats.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't want to miss any of the game while dinner's going on. And honestly, I hate the Thursday night game on Thanksgiving because you have the tryptophan hangover, and and you're falling asleep by 8 o'clock because of all the turkey you've eaten. So I know I'm not going to fall asleep this Thursday night because the game will be on, but I really hate the late game on Thursday. To me, it's just overkill. I've been against the Thursday games all along, but I like Chris's prediction too. He has the Patriots 17-14 over the Vikings.
Similar to my score. Yep, right there. I mean, for me, Steve. So I guess it depends, because if you're on the East Coast, I can see your point, because my thought was, you don't want to be the first game being on the West Coast. If you're a West Coast fan watching the game, well, the first game is on early enough where you're still cooking food, you're still prepping.
Yeah.
You got family coming in. If your family coming over, you're out of the small talk. You're helping unload your aunt's car with her 40 pies, and you got turkey basting everywhere. You got I almost cursed. You got stuff all over the kitchen, and then your middle game. I like the night game for me. It starts at 6:20, so it's like we've already eaten, we've already had our leftovers, we've already taken maybe dozed off on the couch for a few minutes. Now you're ready to watch the game and get in bed before 10 o'clock. I kind of like it, but it is all about perspectives. The middle game for me is always tough, and maybe it's just because I always split time between my parents. So I'll spend the morning or early afternoon with my mom. I'll spend the evening with my dad. I don't know. So I all I know is I have been on a diet for several months, and I am going to gorge myself on food. And a hot take for you to end the show, Steve. Maybe not that hot of a take. Leftover turkey sandwiches are better than turkey on Thanksgiving.
As long as there's gravy left.
As long as there's gravy. And I'm a big mashed potato guy. I love mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
And my family.
I like the open faced turkey sandwich where you just pour the gravy over it.
Oh yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah,
you could do that too. Favorite Thanksgiving side, and then let's wrap this thing up.
Mashed potatoes.
Me too.
My wife makes the best mashed potatoes ever.
I'll be there. I'm coming to you.
She's making a huge pot of them. So.
Yeah, well, you got it. I mean, they keep forever, and you can just go to town on just give me like a bunch of mashed potatoes, throw some turkey on there, just pour a bunch of gravy, a little salt and pepper, and let's go.
And throw the corn on top, so it looks like I'm eating some vegetables.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Just throw it just for color. Sure. Anyway, I hope that everybody listening has a fun, safe, a happy Thanksgiving with your friends, your family. We are sorry that we didn't get to have Russ on today. It was not planned. But life happens, and I know he will be back for our next show next week, which will be on our regular Wednesday time, as we've been trying to stay pretty consistent with that this season. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this game plays out, Steve. Maybe we have to do a show a little earlier because we got Thursday games. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe we can try to do a show earlier in the week next week. So follow us on Twitter and make sure we have our handles right here in the video chat. So follow us on Twitter, and we'll keep you updated. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our Apple Podcasts, and also on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Patriots 4th and 2. For Steve Balestrieri, I'm Derek Havens. This has been brought to you by PatsFans.com, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, Chris.